Here are your 401k rollover options. You could do a 401k rollover to Roth IRA, a 401k rollover to IRA, 401k rollover to your new employer plan. Shoot, you could even cash out your 401k if you wanted to. In today's video, we'll be reviewing your 401k rollover options, and my goal for you is that after watching this video, you'll have a much better understanding and appreciation for what your options are in the event you're hopping from one company to the next. Okay, let's get to work. What's up, guys? I'm K Scholl. Welcome to another financial awareness video. Looks like about 50% of you watching are doing so from a mobile device. So do yourself a favor and tilt your phone sideways because I want you to take a screenshot of what I'm about to throw on the screen. I got this directly from the IRS website, which I'll link below. And as you can see, it's pretty self-explanatory. For example, no, you cannot roll over a designated Roth 401k into a traditional IRA. Not only can you not do that, but that would be pretty stupid to take after-tax, tax-free growth money and roll it over into a pre-tax traditional IRA where it's going to grow tax-deferred. You're way smarter than that. You're watching this channel. I'm not going to bore you by going through each of these options and scenarios on this rollover chart, so please feel welcome to check out the chapter links and skip ahead if you like. Or if there's something I don't cover today, let me know in the comments down below and I'll put it on my content calendar. Also, if you weren't aware of your 401k rollover options and you've never seen this rollover chart before and I just saved you time and money, then do me a favor and tap that like button, and don't forget to stick around for the bonus tips at the end of the video. 401k rollover option number 1, don't do anything. Yeah, that's right, you heard me. Don't do anything. Don't roll it over at all. Just leave the money in the plan. Sure, there are some 401k plans that will require you to take action from 45 days from your termination date, but with most employer plans, you can just leave the money in there and it will remain invested. No, you won't be able to contribute to it anymore, but hopefully over a long enough period of time, it will continue to grow based on your fund selection and asset allocation. 401k rollover option number 2. One of the most common 401k rollover options is to a pre-tax traditional IRA. So we'll cover that first. There are many reasons why this is the most common, and I've listed them in other videos before. So here's just a very quick and brief summary. Most people funding 401ks and contributing to 401ks are doing so to get the tax deduction, which is why most 401k money is pre-tax. And taking that pre-tax 401k money and rolling that over into a pre-tax traditional IRA will have no taxable consequence. And I don't want to deviate from this particular video too much, so let's just say I'm a real big fan of Roth 401k contributions, and if you want to learn a little bit more about why I feel that way, then I'd just like to encourage you to check out a few of my other videos. Okay, moving on. Although there's no taxable consequence, let's dive a little bit deeper into the pros and cons of 401k rollover to IRA. No taxes due. As I just mentioned, you're going from a pre-tax account to a pre-tax account, so there's no taxable consequences. Possibly lower costs, along with a wider investment selection, comes the opportunity for you to purchase certain ETFs or funds or index funds at a lower operating expense ratio than what you might have had available to you within your old 401k. However, that does depend on which share class mutual fund you purchase or which ETF or individual stock or whatever you purchase outside of that in your new IRA. So that's why I say possibly. Wider investment selection. So within your 401k, you probably have somewhere between 17 to 20 different fund options, plus maybe some target date funds. But when you go from a 401k to IRA, you're going to have significantly more options to choose from, thousands more options. Individual stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, probably some index funds. You have a lot more options to choose from, much wider selection. So map out a plan and take some time to do some research on a few funds or an allocation of funds that match and suit your risk tolerance, and your time horizon. And what you want to do is compare the operating expense ratios or fees of those funds to the funds that you have available inside your 401k. And if you don't know how to do any of that, then please consider subscribing and sticking around for future videos where I'll walk you through it. The 10% penalty for early withdrawal. Through a 401k, there are very few scenarios for you to be able to access this money with that 10% penalty being waived. However, if you roll this money over into an IRA, that opens it up a little bit more to things such as higher education related expenses, or for a first-time home purchase for you to pull some of this money out of the IRA and use it for those purposes. However, time out. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And although I am listing this as a pro, one of the benefits of doing the rollover from the 401k to IRA, just because you can doesn't necessarily mean that you should. And what you should do is keep your long-term money invested, well, long-term, and save up separately for the down payment of your first home. Or if you do need to spend money on higher education-related expenses, say for your kids, for example, you should do that separately, like in a 529 or in a custodian account or something different than an IRA. Let's go over some of the cons. Loss of access to loans. With your 401k, if you keep the money in there while you're actively still employed with the company, you can borrow against the account balance and pay it back. However, if you do roll this money over into an IRA, there are no borrowing provisions. And if you actually need to pull money out, what you'll have to do is sell the shares of what you own, convert it to cash, and then actually pull the money out of the account. Now, you do have 60 days to put this money back into the account in the event you actually had to pull money out. But let's be real, if you need to access money from an IRA and you're actually liquidating it or pulling it out entirely or partially, what are the chances that you'll actually be able to put it back within 60 days? I'd say slim to none. Just saying. Another con, taking RMDs, required minimum distributions. Minor point here, but generally speaking, you have to start taking RMDs at age 72. However, with 401ks, there is a loophole, and if you are still actively working at age 72 or beyond, and you keep the money inside your 401k, you can push those RMDs off until you separate your employment and actually retire from that company. But even if you are 50 years old right now in 2021, that's still 22 years of a lifespan between the age of 50 and then potentially retiring at 72 or continuing to work beyond the age of 72. So I would call that a minor point and a little bit of a wash. I mentioned possibly lower costs as a pro, but it could also be a con, and you could have higher cost in your IRA than you had in your 401k, because a lot of financial advisors love it when you change jobs because that presents an opportunity for them to earn your rollover business and start making a few bucks to manage your money. Psst, that's how they make money. Either in the form of high 12B1 fees, Class A share sales charges, or possibly a fiduciary type of relationship where you are charged a percentage of your assets under management every quarter. If you truly don't know what you're doing, then it may be worth it to you to pay a professional that's licensed, certified, maybe has some designation initials behind their name, for them to take the steering wheel and tell you what to do and pretty much do it for you. But my faith in your ability to research and learn something as simple as a 401k rollover to IRA, that faith is growing. Heck, come on, man, you got this. You're already watching this video. You're halfway there. You can do this. Backdoor Roth IRA. This one isn't necessarily for everyone. Maybe, I don't know, like 15 to 20% of you. But if you make too much money to contribute to a Roth IRA directly and you're phased out, married, filing jointly, making more than 208, then you are probably strategizing and researching and learning how to do the backdoor Roth IRA strategy. And if you roll your old 401k over into an IRA, that will hinder your ability to do that strategy. So if you are in that situation, check out my backdoor Roth IRA video to help you learn how to work around that issue. Lastly, if you keep your funds in the 401k and you separate from your job and retire at the age of 55, then you could start accessing this money from your 401k without that 10% penalty. You'll still have to pay taxes on the pre-tax 401k money that you withdraw from that 401k, but if you leave the money in there, then you won't have to wait until the age of 59 and a half like you would if it was in an IRA. Bet you didn't know that, huh? Next batter up, 401k rollover option number 3, 401k rollover to Roth IRA. Pretty similar to everything that I just mentioned a moment ago, but with a few twists. Yes, wider investment selection. Yes, possibly lower cost on that wider investment selection. No RMDs, no borrowing or loan provisions. But the main thing you have to consider with the 401k rollover to Roth IRA is taxes. Taxes. That's right. When you initiate a 401k rollover to Roth IRA, that is a taxable consequence, and you're going from a pre-tax 401k to an after-tax Roth IRA, and that will change your money from growing tax deferred to growing tax free. If this is of any interest to you, then when you have a little bit more time, check out my videos about tax bracket management and Roth conversions to help you navigate through this decision. 401k rollover option number 4, roll it over into your new employer's 401k. I had the pleasure of speaking with a rocket scientist the other week about some financial questions, and I am super excited to tell you that this option isn't rocket science. It's probably the one you are most comfortable and familiar with because you're literally going from your 401k to your new employer's 401k. Now, maybe you might be going from Fidelity to Vanguard, but you also potentially could be going from Fidelity to Fidelity, and merging these two accounts and transferring and rolling the money over probably isn't that difficult at all. It's pretty straightforward. Kind of like picking up your furniture from your ex's house and moving it over into your new apartment. Same furniture, just moving it from one place to the next. Is that what it's like? I don't know. I've been married for 11 years. I've got no clue. Oh, hey, check this out. See this? This is steel. My dad got it for me. Apparently steel represents 11 years of marriage. Thanks, Paul. With this option, you're going from pre-tax 401k to pre-tax 401k, or Roth 401k to Roth 401k, assuming your new employer has a Roth 401k provision. Unlike a 401k rollover to IRA, you will have a limited investment selection. As I mentioned before, maybe 17 to 20 different options, plus maybe some target date funds. However, here's the positive spin on that. If you're not a savvy investor and you're not really sure which fund or ETF or bond or stock to invest your money in, then this could be a positive, because when you have thousands, 3, 4, 5,000 different options to choose from between individual stocks, ETFs, or index funds, it could potentially be a little overwhelming to do research on that much material. But conversely, if you only have 17 to 20 different funds to choose from, and you narrow down your asset allocation and your risk tolerance and your time horizon, that could narrow those 17 to 20 different funds down to maybe 5 or 7 pretty easily. Hey, if you made it this far into the video, then I appreciate you very much. And here are your bonus tips. Make sure you are aware of your vesting schedule. If you, for example, have a 3-year vesting schedule where you are 0% vested for the first 3 years, and then right at the 3-year mark, or 3 year and 1 day, you become 100% vested in all of your employer matches, then you may or may not want to think how long you want to stay at that current job for. Because if you're right on the bubble, or if you're a few months away, then I would tell you to go ahead and stick it out a little while longer, so that when you do initiate a 401k rollover to an IRA that you're probably going to self-direct, hold out a little bit longer so that you are vested in that entire account balance and not just what you contributed. Also, when doing the rollover, there is a direct rollover and an indirect rollover. When you do an indirect rollover, that's not the one you want to do. But when you do that one, you are physically going to put and deposit the money into your checking account. And then you have like 45 days or 60 days to put that money back into your new rollover IRA. I would tell you, don't do an indirect rollover. You want to do a direct rollover from your 401k to your IRA. If you get mailed a check, because you probably have to sell all of your positions, move all that money to cash, and then you are mailed a check, probably two, one for your contributions and one for your employer contributions, or like if you have a 403B and a 401A and you get mailed two checks, do not deposit those checks. You want to give them directly to your financial advisor for he or she to deposit the money, or you want to just do it all digitally if you're doing it yourself, where the money goes directly to your new employer's plan or directly to your new IRA. Do not deposit this money into your checking account, because that would be an indirect rollover, and that kind of triggers a few things, and it shows that you deposited this money, and then you have to, just don't do that. Do a direct transfer rollover. Hey, if you're at the point where you're ready to take a bigger bite into your financial planning, then check out this video right here about Roth IRA versus 401k. Ties in great to the video you just watched right now. Or, I don't know, maybe you'll like that one instead. If you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments down below. I appreciate your time. See you in the next one.